Okay. All right. He actually was just getting his computer out and starting it.
I'm pretty sure it's already started.
Oh, he says he started it, he thinks. He said he's pretty sure.
The first thing we need to do
Mhm.
is take Donna, the participant list, take Donna.
Right. But I thought it was.
Hello.
Oh.
Never mind, I was testing.
You can hear, I'm talking in the phone and I can hear, yes. We did have a notice that somebody tried the link yesterday, so. Yeah,
Okay, Donna's in.
Donna should be in.
Video's off for her.
And do you have Donna as a host?
Not yet.
Not yet, he says.
I'll make her a co-host is what she has to
Co-host,
be.
okay. Mike a host too. And Tony and.
I can't make anybody anything till they join though.
Can't make anybody anything until they join.
Oh, well, they're on my laptop, so. But I was trying to, oh, start video. There we go. Now I can be existing.
Okay.
Ah. Oh, I'm so ready for this. Yes. Ah. Okay. So.
Anyway.
So I'm going to the screen with our presentations on it.
I think I am.
Okay.
Now, the only issue is when I share yours, I will have to move the slides forward for you unless you decide you want to share your own screen, your presentation on it, because we've got.
Yeah, it isn't really particularly. It's on the south side of the lake. North side. When you go to town, you go.
So anyway.
Okay. I'm going to set my computer up now.
I was trying to
because
figure out
otherwise there
how
would
to.
be lots of feedback.
Yeah. Why don't you, if you want to read through the notes and see if we're missing things, that would be great.
I'm sorry, am I missing things? But
No, I'm talking to, I put her in charge of me. So it's still a.
Can I move beer and flax here so I can hand them to you when you need them? Or do you-
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out whether or not we wanted to move it so I'm not at the end, but I'm on a side. Would side be easier? Yeah.
Side, you- edges in front.
Yeah.
She may pop it for, I mean.
It's good because you can just rotate it to Cheryl
Okay.
and then rotate it back, and then Cheryl and I might trade places. Not that, but
And then Mike is, Doug, you just stay out of the way.
There's a mean street.
people love, by the way, to see dogs.
So
Stores are there.
that would be the
Sweet
only
shop
thing.
has Fudge to die for.
And,
Other stuff, there's a bakery there.
well, that would be something that you could use if you wanted in there. It's a slightly below the fold, I think it is.
Awesome. Walking up, for me, walking up.
On the fold.
But the headline is above the fold.
Headlines above the fold,
It's so
ladies.
exciting. Oh my gosh, you all. I can't believe all of these things came together.
No, I can't either.
Cindy, we look like, yes, of course. It's all been planned.
Hit your head than I am.
Appreciate the work. You don't need to start with that. Okay.
Speaking, are you speaking there? Or do you want to speak from over here? Okay. All is good. So you're not obligated to do anything, but
This
my
looks-
mother would be upset if I didn't do this.
Amazing, Donna. You are
You know
so
what I'm
gracious.
saying? It's just the way life is. My
Well-
kids, the kids put it once.
This looks great.
Your mother lived through the depression, so we have to. Thank you.
My grandparents.
And I said, yep, that's right.
Do you know how many times we were heading to the garbage to throw something away and I'd hear my grandmother go, "Oh, you're not throwing that away, are you?"
Ooh, I had an aunt like that.
Yes. And you'd suddenly jerk away and say, "Oh, no."
When you actually was, yes, I am.
Yeah.
Or you can't sell that. Yes, I can.
All right, has,
Hey,
Reed,
you're in the meeting and you're a co-host now.
okay. And,
What, dear? What are you saying to me?
Reed needs to make sure that the chat is,
Mike's gonna mind the chat, but you wanted to have it so that only Mike could see the
right,
chat.
only the hosts can
Only
see.
hosts. So Mike has to be a host.
Yes. Yes.
Is that right?
Yep.
Where is my, makeup artist?
I know, but you look great. You ready to go?
You know what might be easier is that whoever is speaking, instead of moving the laptop, just move the person.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, because we've got it
Wow, that's really pretty backdrop.
back there.
Cindy, are you gonna present from that very beautiful space?
Yes.
Is there a way to get just a titch more lighting on you? You're just, at least on our screen, you're just a teeny bit dark. And we need your natural beauty to shine.
Hey, we're working.
Oh, let's see here.
Maybe just that lamp.
This won't, you won't.
There you go.
This is okay,
then-
right? You can
Oh, yeah.
scoochy. But yeah, let's leave this where it is and,
You glow. What do you think about that, Donna?
well, she glows.
Do you mind the light on the ceiling?
I'd rather not have the light, I
Yep.
think.
Let's turn off your ceiling light
Okay.
Kill the ceiling light.
and maybe move the lamp a little closer now.
Oh, that makes it like. Fix here.
The wardrobe people will be arriving soon.
Got her shirt on, so hey. You guys can order things.
Well, we have a huge order to put in from a whole. But I might, after you show this, if there's time, can I just whip this on?
Yeah, that's
Is
a
it extra large?
woman's extra large, and to me, on me, it's a little snug. Of
Hot. I have a feeling
course,
it's
if
gonna
I
be the
lost
same.
500 pounds, it wouldn't be, but
See, every time, yeah.
Now, do you want your sunglasses on your head?
Right.
The makeup
Okay.
artist.
I think you should go into their bathroom and just sort of wet down a little of the wild pieces. And
Oh,
you'll be.
come on.
I like the wild pieces. I don't have to anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
I might.
And then,
If
I
it's
don't know if you
too
want to
tight.
try, we have,
You guys need you need more light.
no, it's actually
Let me
looking good
see.
because of the,
I think Donna looks, what do you think, Cindy? Does Donna look pretty good?
Yes.
Well, I can see what Mike is saying, though. Half your face is dark. Turn it to Cheryl. Let's see what happens when it's.
no,
towards
no, no,
Cheryl.
I don't want to turn the computer
I
on.
could move Cindy, I could move
Put a
your
light
desk
on.
over by the window.
So are all those puck lights? Those are all LED puck lights.
Oh, sure.
Okay, let me see if I might be able to scoot the
How's
desk.
I can read better.
Oh,
How does
yeah.
that look? Better?
That's much better.
How's that look, Cindy or Mike?
Mike's not on. That
Mike's
looks good.
Okay.
But this looks good. I think.
You
Maybe.
look fabulous, darling. Fabulous. And
Anyway, what I was going to say is that we have these in 4 different sizes because I bought them for the kids for
Oh,
our
really?
next golf adventure. So this is a women's extra large, but we have small men's, we
I
have,
love the cut of the women's, but
I do too.
I really love that.
yeah.
Got a little.
But
looks
anyway,
very
all
cute.
those
And
are,
that's XL. or
yeah,
L? Okay.
XL
We
women.
do XLs, women
But,
XL.
but like I said, I've got them all just in there so you can try on and, or hold them up or do what you want.
Right.
Hey, Mike, have you tried yours on yet? Your polo shirt?
These are really, I love the color.
Am I brighter now?
That looks great. How about me? Is it okay?
Yeah, I'd say so.
No,
No?
no, Cindy, I'm talking to my spouse.
Poor
Okay.
Cindy. What? Am I supposed to do what?
I know.
Go put a
Okay,
shirt on?
now Tony's joining, but now we need to check this
Let's do the sharing.
sharing screen business.
Good morning.
Hey, Tony.
Morning.
Hey, Tony.
Do you need me on the?
Yes.
No,
Hey, Tony, when we bring up this, oh, Tony,
Where are you?
here I am.
Oh, there you are. This
Tony,
magical voice.
The banner, y'all, is just unbelievable.
Good
yeah.
job.
Good, good, good.
Nicely done. And B, because we're going to be opening up our presentation at Donna's, do you want to just go next slide and I'll forward and I'll advance the slides, or?
That's fine.
Okay.
I thought that this came out of, oh, this is the extra for making the samples go lower. Got it. The hydrology, there was an extra cost if we took the samples so that they went lower in the PhD.
Yes.
And I made the executive decision that we wanted to do that.
Good. Lower levels of detection. Good.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you.
We'll pay more, but
Yeah.
we want to know.
And I said nothing else, I'll write myself, I'll write a check myself. Okay, so guys, let's play this. So Tony, I
Yes.
don't know if I ever sent you the rules for engagement for this morning.
Yeah, I have. I think it's about 6 weeks ago or so,
Uh,
a while back.
If you want, I can send it to you right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It may
Matt?
be the same one I have. It could be off.
Okay. Cheryl's going to talk you through it, or we're going to talk you through it. So anyway, nice picture of Grindstone in the back, very nice positioning there.
That is great.
Love
Tony.
it.
That wasn't even planned.
Perfect.
It was planned, wasn't it? Yes.
Sure. Yes.
And so what we're going to do is Cheryl and Cindy and Mike are all speaking from here. I'll share my screen, which we're going to practice momentarily so I don't screw it up. And Cindy, did you decide that it was okay if I shared the screen for you and we just said, you can just say next,
I'll say next slide.
next, whatever, and we'll figure this out. And so now let's.
And Mike will have to do that too with the treasurer's report.
Mike, yeah,
So-
Mike's
so.
here too, view.
So the first thing you're going to do is hit that share screen.
So
See the green button.
green button, share screen. So
Yep.
now we're going to try sharing screen. And how do I know what screen I'm sharing?
Okay, first you got to hit the share screen.
Oh,
Hit
boy.
click on it. Okay, now find
Oh,
your
looky.
presentation. Right
Ah,
there.
there we go. How nice.
Now hit share.
Share.
And
And then-
now
and
go into presentation.
That little
This one here.
right there.
Yep.
Oh,
Ah, okay. Does everybody see the presentation for the Grindstone Lake?
We
Yeah.
do.
It looks beautiful.
Looks beautiful. In fact, one could just leave that up there right now.
Right. One
Mhm.
could, probably
Correct.
one could. Let's click,
Yeah.
through. Is Mike's presentation connected to this?
For the GLA it is. It's
That's-
right on here.
And is he gonna join on his computer and you're gonna advance, or will he come over here?
What you gonna do, dear? Mike, are you gonna come over here and be on this screen, or are you gonna share from yours, or am I gonna
Okay.
just
wait.
advance it?
Yeah, you got- simplify.
mhm.
No. Yes, exactly.
Switch chairs, and we're leaving this puppy where it is because it
Yeah.
looks fine. It's
Okay.
got trees.
Now, it's
Now what?
time for Cindy to speak,
That's
or
nice.
Cheryl, or whoever is it you next? I can pull that off of hers.
Yeah.
Is yours connected to hers?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now it's time for Cindy to speak. What are you gonna do?
I have no clue.
Okay, you're gonna hit escape. Escape,
And
click on stop share. And now you're gonna share again.
I'm being
Yeah.
talked through over here, Mike. It's okay.
Now you're gonna share again, and you're gonna find Cindy's presentation.
Cindy's
which is- yep,
presentation is that one.
Yep.
Share. We'll do this. We go.
And screen thingy,
Screen thingy.
boom.
There we
Okay, Cindy, you're
Cindy,
up.
do you see yours?
That would be mine. Yep.
Okay. Now I'm going to practice this. Stop, share,
Mhm.
share,
And find me and Tony.
and find you and Tony, which is here.
Mhm. Beautiful.
Tony, everybody should be seeing your presentation.
Yep.
Well, this could work. How about that? And you'll be here peeking over my shoulder. It's so great. Let's see. I'll put stop share here.
And then after Tony and I are done, is that the end? So do you want to just kind of a few concluding comments or
Well, I was planning on
Q&A?
I was planning on concluding, like, remember to go to the picnic, et cetera,
Yes, and the bug
after
bites.
mine. Otherwise, I can switch back to all that, but people may have left.
Yeah.
But somewhere in the midst of this, if there are chat questions, Mike has to do that,
Okay. Mike, you could just yell them out or something.
except for the presentation. Well, if we're not,
But at the very end, Q&A is over. Do you want to step back in and just
yeah,
thank and say bye?
I'll be easy.
Goodbye. Get off
Goodbye.
my computer.
Get off my computer.
You did good on the screen share.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, screen
So
share,
let's pull up your presentation and get that pretty insignia.
There we go. Foundation, huh? You're on mute. Yep.
Okay. How's that look, everybody?
Good.
Now let's see if anybody shows up. If we're going to put this recording on the website, I assume one can edit it before we do this?
Don't know.
If not, we should stop recording and start recording again. Have a different recording starting.
Okay, and Reed has left his post.
Building. Yeah, have Reed start a new recording session.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
has he done the chat thing yet?
I don't know. Cindy, Cheryl has the chat thing that the only people that are supposed to be seeing the chat are the ones that are hosts. So we don't have everybody seeing everybody's chat.
Okay.
There's a place you hit participants. Is that where you can control, or you hit chat? I bet you do chat.
I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Well, and you're on too. You're gonna be
I'm
on.
trying to get on. I need
Okay.
your password though.
Oh, llama cabin. What's our password, Mike? For here?
For your Wi-Fi.
Good question.
I'll go find Reed.
I know we had a weird one. We had
And of course, we never have to use it because it always.
Llama Duck, L-L-A.
I think Eric was about 13 when he came.
Ah,
It's in the llamas.
because, Chair Bear, because Donna is a host, you should sneak into her chair.
No, I'm going to. I'm gonna
Participate.
That's what that's hiding. Huh? Yes, I'm here.
I'm in.
Oh, you are good. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna try one of these. So you just put one of these in here?
And
You did have eggs, but you can't not.
well,
eat.
it is that
Would
whatever.
you like one, Donna?
No, I had a little bit of something somewhere, maybe. Okay, Reed. I think, did Cindy come and find you? You're on mute, Reed. Good morning, everyone. This is the Grindstone Lake Association annual meeting, and I'd like to welcome everybody. It's great to have you here. We're having it as a Zoom meeting. Perhaps next year we'll be able to have in person, but given the circumstances, we thought that this was best. We have a number of the board members online as well, and quite a few of our association members. So first of all, a couple of housekeeping details, and that is everyone has been muted for the meeting so that we don't have the background noise, but we will have time for questions and answers and chatting. In addition, as you may have noticed, we are recording this because we will be placing it on the website when we're finished with it. So without further ado, let's get started. We have a packed agenda. And so first of all, I took the moment to welcome people, yes. Then we have a financial update from Mike Warden, the treasurer. Then a clean water, clean boats update. And Cheryl will be presenting a lake management plan. Of course, we also need to do a bit of governance, i.e. vote on the board membership. After that, we'll be turning it over to Cindy Parker, Mike, and others of the Grindstone Lake Foundation. So at this point, Mike is going to join us and take over in terms of the financial report. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. Just want to report on a few key metrics here. First of all, very important to us is our number of members. Right now, we're at 139, which is pretty much where we've been the last couple of years before the annual meeting. And then the annual meeting seems to kick off awareness in people and they send in their memberships. Last year, we ended up with 160. And you can see we were just shy of 150 the 2 years before that. We're targeting to have 150 this year as well. Okay, now how do I get this thing to
Page down.
hit page down? Okay.
Just move it.
Oh, all right. Little incompetence here on the operator. Here's a chart showing our annual revenue. The green was, the blue is for this year, the red is what we had budgeted, and the green is what we had last year. The one thing missing on the very right-hand side, merchandise sales, we actually have been informed by Hidden Bay Graphics that they're sending us about $1,400 for merchandise sales. You can see that because we're just short of our budget, we're a little bit short on the dues revenue, but people have come through with a huge amount of donations, close to 5,500. And then you can see our 2 grant payments, and we thank you all for those donations. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second, why that's important. And you see our 2 grants. So far, the only thing we've received on the clean boat, clean water was a very minimal payment at the beginning of the year. Conversely, on the lake management plan, they've sent us about 18,000, a little bit more than 18,000. So they've made a pretty sizable down payment from the Wisconsin DNR. If we move on to expenses, typically our biggest expense is the boat launch monitoring, and that's going full speed ahead this year. If you recall, last year we were a little bit short on that because of the COVID restrictions. Again, our lake management plan grant, the red is the budget and the blue is the actual expenditure. And we haven't really spent anything yet on this lake management plan, but we're going to need to, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. And then communication, annual meetings, very little because we're not meeting in person. No merchandise expense yet, and then G&A expenses. So if we look at our financial position, other than the $3,000 that we sent a few years ago to get the foundation seated so that they would be able to move forward with purchasing the cranberry bog, the rest of our financial position is all in cash, and we have $42,242. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, what are we going to do with all that money? So here is the lake management plan. It's a DNR surface water grant. I can't really read all of the numbers because of the way the screen is here, but the total estimated project cost is about $44,000. And we're anticipating spending about half of that this year and about half next year. So 20,000 this year, 24,000 next year. The state of Wisconsin will pay 25,000 of that 43. And they've already, as I mentioned, already have sent 18,750. We are anticipating having donated services from a couple of board members and others that would amount to about $8,000. So we need an additional, and we've received so far 5,500, and we're anticipating between this year and next year, we'd receive about 8,000 in grants or contributions from GLA members. And that's why it's very important, and we thank you very much. But the bottom line is that the GLA will still need to spend about $2,600 to finish this lake management plan. Now, it looks like a negative number for this year because we've received the down payment and we've received the contributions. But if you can see, next year, we're anticipating that we'd have to spend about 12,000. So that's why we have that huge cash reserve, is we're really anticipating needing to spend more money next year. So that's the financial report. And I think I'm on board to do the Clean Boat, Clean Waters report as well. So this is a program that we participated in for over 10 years. As I mentioned, last year it was truncated a little bit because of COVID restrictions. This year we're moving full speed ahead. And we do have a new person, and we have a picture of him, Joe Moore. If you've not seen him, he's very pleasant. He's there typically on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. Again, the Clean Boat, Clean Water grant is another one of those grants where the DNR does not pay the full amount. We're responsible for, the DNR pays 75%, and we're responsible for 25%. This year, we're anticipating, we did receive a grant total amount of $4,500. We're anticipating getting about $3,375 from the state, and then we'll have to spend $1,125. And we typically do that with keeping track of volunteer hours. And there is a great volunteer opportunity coming up this coming weekend. So July 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th, Thursday through Sunday, to come down to the landing and check people as they enter the water with their boats. And I will have to say that it's not really a very tough thing to do because most people are well aware of the goals of the Clean Boat, Clean Water, and not moving invasive species around. They're very supportive, and for the most part, they're extremely friendly and happy to see you. So it's a great opportunity to spend 4 or 5 hours sitting in the shade over by the landing, jumping up, chatting with people occasionally. Bring your dogs. The dogs love to lay on the beach there and have a good time. So we're looking for help this coming weekend. Our person, Joe Moore, will be on a prearranged vacation this weekend. But other than that, the Clean Boat, Clean Water program is off and running and doing very well. So that's the report for Clean Boat, Clean Water. I'm going to turn it over to Karen and Cheryl now.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cheryl Content, and I would like to report out on a new grant opportunity that we have started this year with the support of the Wisconsin DNR. This is really an exciting opportunity for us to gather information almost on a comprehensive level about our lake and the land that feeds that lake and the people that use the lake. And so then using that information, we can create a plan for managing the lake, managing the use of the lake to maintain its health and integrity. So the DNR actually defines the process for and the elements included in a comprehensive lake management plan, and it's through the document called the Surface Water Grant Program, which was recently revised in 2020. Grindstone Lake Association applied for and received a $25,000 grant, which is the maximum grant available from the DNR, and it covers 67% of the grant costs. Mike was just alluding to that. The other 33% has to be covered by GLA. And we will be doing that both through dues payments as well as the gracious donations of members when they submit their checks with some extra for covering grant costs. We have contracted with 3 groups. Primarily at this stage of the project, we have contracted with Ecological Integrity Services, Steve Schiffer, who is doing all of the monitoring data for us and modeling data for us this summer. Survey of Grindstone Lake residents will be done by University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire Professor Karen Mumford. And then the actual development of the lake management plan will be coordinated, we hope, by Harmony Environmental Cheryl Clemens. Those of you who may have seen her at other lake associations, she's actually a very gifted and talented person to lead a group of people together in developing a management plan. So what I'd like to do now is to go through the various steps of the words comprehensive lake management plan. So now I'd like to talk about the management plan itself. The plan will have a 10-year planning horizon, and it'll include implementation steps that we will be taking. So it will identify, the plan will identify threats to our lake, problems that are causing those threats. It will incorporate the community and our goals and hopes for the lake. There'll be an implementation schedule, and it's a dynamic plan that is updated regularly. So why do we go through this process of developing a management plan? Well, we're going to get a deeper and richer understanding of our lake and its challenges and threats. But also, on a more practical note, it gives us access to lake management implementation funds from the DNR, and those funds can be substantial. If we were to have to do any sort of restoration work or any work like that into the future, we'll have a much bigger pot of funds to go after once we have an approved lake management plan and implementation schedule. So what do we mean by the lake? The lake includes the actual water body of Grindstone Lake, but it includes its tributaries, includes the shoreline and the shoreland. So the shoreline is the property right where the water and the land hit, but the shoreland includes the first 35 feet back from that shoreline. Includes the watershed, all of the land that whose water would drain into Grindstone Lake, either directly or through tributaries. And the lake itself actually includes in these management plans, the community of people who are shoreline residents and visitors to the lake. So that's part of the reason you will see that we'll be doing some efforts to get access to those individuals' thoughts, ideas, and concerns. Now let's talk about the comprehensive part, the collecting of information. A whole bunch of information will be collected this particular year, and we'll also be pulling some historical data too. We'll get physical data on the hydrology, surface area, watershed for Grindstone Lake. We'll get some baseline water chemistry, Secchi depth, which is a measure of water clarity, temperature, dissolved oxygen, pH or acidity, total phosphorus, and chlorophyll A. We'll also get land use in the watershed and around the shore of the lake. We'll get an aquatic plant survey, which is a point intercept survey, which is a really great process for identifying the aquatic plants that are in the lake and the health of those plants. We'll also identify aquatic invasive species that may be also in the lake and identify their specific locations. We'll get riparian land ownership and the resident survey. We'll get lake shoreland habitat assessment information. We'll pull together all the related management plans, some modeling work, some fisheries data, and then public information will all be pulled together in developing that final plan that will take, and the development of the plan will take place next year. So if you've been getting information from the association, you're going to you will have already seen these next tables, but I wanted to just give you a reminder of the activities and the timing and what you might personally see when you're out on the lake or at your cabin, and then what the purpose is for these various things. And I'm not going to go through all of these specifically, but I will, and you can read these as I'm talking, but the first round is the water quantity and water quality data that will allow us to then do a nutrient analysis of the lake. And so equipment was placed earlier this spring at the Grindstone Creek entrance to Grindstone Lake and at the exit to Little Grindstone. And you'll see some measurement equipment there that's also capturing flow levels, water chemistry, as well as precipitation. Also during the summer, about the middle of the month, you may see a boat out taking water samples on the lake. Those are collected and then sent off to the state hygienic lab where they are analyzed for iron temperature, which the temperature reading is actually taken on site, but iron, chlorophyll A, as well as phosphorus readings we're getting from the state hygienic lab from those samples. There'll also be a shoreland survey, and this will take place this summer, probably later this month, early into August. And you'll see a boat with a couple of people on it driving around the lake, looking at shorelands. They'll be using a protocol developed by the Wisconsin DNR that will characterize the features of the shoreland within 35 feet of the shoreline. And that information will then be used to help us develop that implementation plan. There'll also be an aquatic plant survey that will be done both early in June and late July. And that again is comparing the plants throughout the lake and identifying any invasive species. You could be looking for in your inbox on your email a survey to be coming to you online in August, and that will be a survey asking a series of questions about your perspectives on the lake, on the association, on your attitudes toward the lake, and your perceptions about volunteering and participating in future implementation actions. All of that information then comes together next year in the preparation of the comprehensive management plan for Grindstone Lake. And that will include also an implementation plan for 2023 and forward. And so each year we will be reviewing that plan after it is developed. And we'll be reviewing that plan, identifying what we have accomplished, making sure that the implementation plans for the subsequent year are still the right direction to go, and then providing some guidance then on what we do the next year and what grant opportunities we develop. There will be an advisory committee that will be working with the consultant and pulling all the information together and developing that management plan. So we will be contacting folks and looking for volunteers to participate on that advisory committee. And there will also be a public comment period after we develop the draft management plan. We'll then be working, putting the information out for public comment so that we can get further input from those who would like to provide some direction on the future of Grindstone Lake, its management and implementation strategies. So this is a pretty amazing process that we're going to be going through this year and next. It is a very timely process, time-consuming process, and requires quite a bit of resources to complete this task. But it is a pretty amazing opportunity for our lake to pull all this information together at one time and develop a 10-year management and implementation plan for Grindstone Lake. So as you may be thinking through this, if you'd like to add questions to the chat, you can address those questions on any topic that we're covering during the meeting today. If you have questions about the lake management plan, I'd be happy to come back and try to address those later in the meeting. So thank you all very much. And I'm going to turn this back over to Donna as we play musical chairs here. So here's Donna.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thank you very much. We'll just keep moving right along. And next we have the Board of Governance in terms of voting on whether or not the current Board of Directors, as we see here, are the ones that you as the members would like to continue. You can see we do have a couple of openings that for web and social media management and the annual meeting outreach and social activities. So Mike, if you would unmute everybody, we then can do a voice vote in terms of approval of the slate of candidates.
Everyone is able to unmute themselves.
Oh, he said that everyone is able to unmute themselves. So if you would do that, and then we'll take a voice vote for this rather than.
Do we check in to see if you can hear us?
I can hear you. Whoever that was.
Okay, that's Carol. I unmuted.
Hey, Carol. Nice
Hi.
to see
You too.
Yep. Oops. So I'd like to take a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Going once, going twice, going three times? All right. Thank you. Motion carried. We will continue to work for the good of Grindstone. And Mike is now going to be muting you again. And let's continue. All right. Next, we want to do some thank yous. First for Doug and Steve. These have been created for them. We're going to be giving them to Doug and Steve as soon as we find them. They were created by Sean Humphreys, who is another member of the board. We want to thank Doug and Steve for all of their years on the Grindstone Lake board. They certainly have put in a lot of effort and made a difference for this lake. Next, I'd like to thank Dee Hobie, and many of you, all of you, should have received the newsletter, which she puts together for us and does an absolutely phenomenal job. And if there is anyone that did not get this, I'm going to have a few copies at the Boulevard for those that need to pick one up. Last but not least, we have new and renewing GLA members. And Mike gave you the update in terms of how many we have. Well, we can always use a few more, so encourage your neighbors and friends. Now, the pitch for opportunities for involvement. We have, as Mike talked about earlier, we do have the boat lake landing monitoring that still needs some support in July. as well, the other areas for shoreline restoration, etc. One last item before turning it over to Cindy and GLF, and that is the Grindstone Lake gear. So far, we've had over 180 items ordered, almost 4,000. And we do have, several of us are wearing the polo shirt. In addition, we have the t-shirts, and we have my favorite, the wine cups that can be also purchased. So right now, Mike just said to remind you that the wine cup is unbreakable for the boat, so no glass and what have you. But you can get that, you can put in your orders now through the end of July, and then you'll be able to either pick up or have mailed to you the gear in about 3 to 4 weeks after that, because unlike in the previous time, a couple of years ago, where everything was sitting in our cabin for people to purchase, we are now doing a purchase policy that says when you make that purchase, then they will produce it for us. Now, I'd also like to remind you about the Cranberry Bog tours at 11 and 3:30 today, either or. You'd meet over at the Cranberry Bog. We have quite a few people signed up, but there's space for more, so please feel free to show up. And the social is tonight from 4 to 6. We didn't do the annual meeting via in person, but we're giving everybody an opportunity to get together and say hi to their neighbors and meet at the Boulevard for Cash Bar. And I have also understand there might be a couple of appetizers there for people as well. Do we have any questions at this point that we need to address?
Yes.
We do. Cheryl is coming back.
So we received a question on the chat about whether the implementation plan is a legally enforceable document or advisory. Because we are a lake association, not a lake district, it is not a legally enforceable document other than the aspects that we might promote in the plan that relate directly to regulations, state regulations. But it's an opportunity for us to identify problems that we have and move forward, even to the point of perhaps seeking legislation either locally through the town of Bass Lake or through the county for our lake. But it would not be a legally enforceable planning document nor implementation document. So hope that answers the question that came through the chat. Thank you.
And we'll be sure to address any other chat questions as we go along. Right now, I'm going to do a stop sharing and then put up Cindy Parker's presentation for the Grindstone Lake Foundation. So just give me a moment and see if I can't do this. Oops, wrong one. Sorry. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. I think this is the one. What do you think, Cindy?
This is it.
Okay, well, I'm going to put myself on mute and.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending this morning. This is the Grindstone Lake Foundation portion of the annual meeting. Donna, if you would advance the slide, please. And what we're all about is conserving the Grindstone Lake Cranberry Bog, that 57 acres of land on the southwest side of the lake, to try to maintain our healthy lake. Next, please. This has been our vision all along, and you will continue to see this and hear about it later on when Karen Mumford and Tony Westcott give their presentation. We're all about conservation, the legacy of the Clearwater Lake. So all of these generations that are coming after us are able to enjoy. And we know we have several family members who have been here for 3 generations at least. We want to educate individuals and add value again to the water clarity, and we would like to have some recreation associated with it as well. We have had amazing donors, and we like to thank each and every one of you for thinking and about this and being dedicated and committed to our cause, so to speak. Next, and here is Mike with our financials.
Oh, I was just gonna, can you hear me from here?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I mean, from a statement of activities, there's not a lot that has happened so far this year. We've received 17,323 in donations, a little bit of interest income from our first donor, actually transferred some stock, which has been in investments and has worked out pretty well for us. From an expense standpoint, we have paid the full years of taxes this year of 6,507. Now, a couple of years ago, this property went from being agricultural property to being residential or development property, and the taxes increased dramatically. And Cindy has worked very hard with the town of Bass Lake and Sawyer County to move it back to its original status of agriculture. And next year and that has happened. And next year we're anticipating that the taxes will be closer to $2,000. The other thing that Cindy has been working on is actually getting it to be 100% tax exempt as a nonprofit property. And we'll have to wait and see how that works out. The other expense that we've had, which is really not a cash expense, but we have had to been accruing interest all along on the original note that we signed to purchase the land. So that interest expense has grown to $11,253,000, which is part of the reason why the goal as far as fundraising is more than the original $750,000 purchase. So you can see that our operating income is actually a slight loss. And then we do have, as I mentioned, on those investments, we have unrealized gains of $4,558, which has worked out very well for us. So if you could go forward one. Okay, so the balance sheet is basically we have money in the checking account, 53,000. We have 37,000 in the investments. We do have the $200,000 grant receivable. This is the grant from the Wisconsin DNR to purchase the property. And then we have pledges that equal about $177,000. A couple of them were not really designated for land acquisition, so we've just classified them as for operations, but in any event, we can use that money to purchase the land. And then, of course, we have the big asset is the land of $750,000. Then if you look at our liabilities, our note payable is the $750,000. The interest that has accrued since the beginning of time, not just the amount, the $11,000 this year, is about $60,000. And then we have some fund balances. We have the equity transfer that we talked about earlier that initially came from the Grindstone Lake Association to get this whole thing kicked off the ground. Then we have restricted fund balance of $45,000 and unrestricted of $359,844. Probably the biggest thing to look at is the amount available for the land acquisition. And this is what we've been sending out. It was in the newsletter. It was in the paper this past week. So we have 90,000 approximately in cash and investments. We have that $200,000 grant coming, and we have 177 in pledges that have been pledged. So far we've raised a total of 468,000. And our goal is on the next slide. Yes, our goal is on the next slide. Maybe on the next slide.
There we go.
I'll turn this back over to Cindy now.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. So as Mike said, we have raised 468,000. There's the number of pledges that we have and donations and grants. We actually now, we have a matching grant opportunity. A donor will match dollar for dollar what we receive from now moving forward up to $200,000. So we need your donations to secure that full match and pay off the mortgage, clearing our title to the bog. And once we have that, part of the Wisconsin DNR grant is to place a conservation easement on the property so it will be preserved. Next slide, please, Donna. Thank you. So like I said, we need your funds. Talk to your neighbors. Do they know about us and what we're doing over there? And actually, Karen Mumford and Tony Westcott will be going through a presentation on the past, present, and the future of the bog. And the next. As with the Grindstone Lake Association, the Grindstone Lake Foundation has a board of directors, and this is the time within which we need to vote on the board. So if you could unmute everyone, and then everyone unmute yourselves, please.
Yes, everyone is able to unmute themselves now.
Thank you, Mike. So moving forward, as I mentioned, these are our, this is the slate of directors for the coming year. So I would ask, entertain a vote to approve this slate of officers. If you are in favor of this slate of officers, or excuse me, directors, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Thank you. And this will be our board of directors for the next year. And Don, if you could advance.
Well, we're going to see what we need to do for screen sharing because something just went away. And we're getting back to it right now.
And actually, I think that is the end of my presentation.
Oh, that could be why it all happened.
That's probably why it went away. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our foundation board members, Karen Mumford and Tony Westcott, to present an additional information off to you about our bog project.
All right, and I'm working on bringing up that screen. I'll get good at this at the end of the meeting. Thank you very much. There we go. As for Karen and Tony.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really honored to be here today with my colleague and friend, Tony Westcott, to talk with you about the exciting work that's happening on the bog associated with the Grindstone Lake Foundation. But I just want to share with you something personal. I don't know if you're able to hear it, but we were actually hearing the loons calling from Donna's home. And as I look out at this lake, I'm so humbled and grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this amazing place and to be part of this wonderful lake community. So it's a beautiful day, and I'm thrilled to be talking about our work regarding the foundation. As Cindy indicated, Tony and I are going to talk to you about a little bit about the history of the bog, presently what we've been engaged in, and some ideas and thoughts about future directions for the land. I love this aerial photo. You'll see the location of the bog on Grindstone Lake, and you can see how close it is not only to County Road K, but to Coudray, Lake Coudray. For those of you that might not be familiar with the bog, it's located in the southwestern shore of Grindstone Lake. It's about 57 acres, between 15 and 1,600 linear feet of shoreline, about 2 to 3% of the shoreline of the lake. And if you look at this map, you'll see that the bog is bounded to the south by County Road K. Over to the east, there are wooded lots and private property. And then over here to the west, you're going to see the DNR boat landing road. And then of course to the north, it's located right along the shore. So it's a pretty remarkable parcel in terms of size and location. The other part that's fascinating about this space is its history. Certainly we're all familiar with the fact that the bog or the wetland was converted to a cranberry bog. But what's really interesting is just before the land was converted to cranberry operations, we found from Sawyer County an old aerial photo. And you can see I've circled it. It's got the word bog on it. That's the land we're talking about today. And you can see that it's a little bit different texture than the land surrounding it. And we're somewhat certain it was actually a non-forested natural wetland. Really interesting ecological system. Just after that photo, interestingly enough, was when the land started to be converted, the wetland started to be converted to cranberry bogs. And we've located a couple of inlets along the shoreline. There are some irrigation ditches and culverts throughout the area to manage the water for cranberry production. And then really it went through 3 iterations in terms of expansion of cranberry production. And I've got a really interesting map we were able to find. You can see that in terms of the early development of the area for cranberry, it was really that northern section of the wetland along the shoreline. And then in the 60s to 80s, you can see development expanding both eastward and westward. And finally, in the 90s, there's a really interesting upland bog that was established. So over time, the bog area has been expanded for production. By around the late 1990s, early 2000s, the land was purchased with a proposal to develop a pretty intense residential area, including dredging the wetland area for a marina. Because of the DNR stepping in and reviewing the plan, they did not approve that original plan. And I really want to hand it to members of the Grindstone Lake Association at this time. They stepped in not to necessarily stop the development, but to determine whether there were ways of accommodating some level of development, but also wetlands protection. So they were able to get the developer to cut the number of units in half. And here's a preliminary look at what that proposal looked like. You can see most of the houses were located probably 30 to 50 yards away from the shore. And then there were a couple of lots established along the shoreline. I think what people don't realize is along the shoreline, we think it was originally a natural ice ridge. And so it's a pretty steep shoreline. You probably have to go almost straight down 3 to 5 feet in certain areas to even access the shoreline. So it's a complicated site. And I think because of that, and at that time, the emerging recession, the proposal and the development never went forward, and it was returned to, I think an individual purchased it and started to farm it again for cranberries. There were some additional proposals for possible developments that never really materialized. Now I want to talk to you about where we're at in terms of the efforts of the Grindstone Lake Foundation, what I'm calling the present. So Stepping back now from what you've learned about the site, the Grindstone Lake Foundation was formed in 2018 with the purpose of figuring out, well, maybe we could raise funds and actually purchase the bog and restore it and utilize it in a way where it would continue to serve as a water quality protection strategy. The foundation acquired 501c3 status. We're considered a charitable organization, and many of you are familiar with the fact that we've been raising funds. And we have a wonderful association in partnership with the Grindstone Lake Association. Surprisingly and unexpectedly, several months after the foundation was formed, the Cranberry Bog actually went up for sale on an auction site, of all things, an online auction. And really the most exciting thing that happened was the fact that a local Grindstone Lake property owner actually produced the winning bid to acquire the Grindstone Cranberry Bog. And that property owner then turned the purchase agreement over to the foundation. We're now in the process of fundraising to pay off the financial arrangements that were established between the person who purchased. And we are the official title holder of the property. So in some ways, we're sort of paying off a mortgage as if it were a home through our fundraising efforts. And I wanted to show you these pictures. We actually have an active eagle's nest on the site. And when you walk on the site, I think you'll be astonished by the numbers of monarch butterflies. Just a really remarkable site. Cindy already mentioned what we established as our mission. And I think it's really important that our focus is truly on conservation and protecting the water quality of the lake by acquiring the land. And in that sense, it's really going to support the health of our lake so that generations after us will enjoy the beauty and wonder of this amazing resource. The educational opportunities are rich, both for our local community college, the LCO community college students, but our K through 12 students. We imagine them coming onto the site doing projects, learning about wetlands. It's really going to be an exciting opportunity. And by protecting this land and protecting water clarity, it certainly protects the value of this space and more tangibly the value of our properties around the lake. And we're really excited about the prospect of creating some non-motorized recreational opportunities through the development of trails. And Tony's going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. As has been mentioned several times, we are thrilled to report that we've raised $468,000 to date, thanks to pledges and donations from our local community, area businesses, and friends of the lake. And again, thrilled to get the Wisconsin DNR land acquisition grant. And we just feel extremely grateful to everybody and our local agencies that have been so helpful. COVID slowed our fundraising down just a little bit, so we were able to secure a one-year extension on the loan that we anticipate paying off, hopefully with hard work and contributions from our community. We plan to pay that loan off this December. In addition, early this summer, we got some really exciting news. An anonymous individual has put forward a matching grant of up to $200,000, which the matching part of it would raise our allocation to $668,000. And we're really going to be pushing hard to raise the remaining $200,000 so we can fully pay off the loan. So very exciting news, and we're really energized and hope you feel energized too to be part of this. We've also been doing a lot of outreach activities and establishing partnerships. Our board president, Cindy Parker, worked with Surrey County Board of Supervisors, who have now included the Cranberry Bog as part of their county outdoor recreation plan. That's really a tremendous boost to the work that we're doing. We've done several planning and acquisition presentations at state and local conferences. Our consultations have provided tremendous assistance and support, and just a big shout out to the Wisconsin DNR and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service who've been on hand to help in our thoughts about how the land can be used. We're thrilled to be collaborating with the Hayward School District as well as LCO Community College. We see this as just a remarkable educational location. Landmark Conservancy is helping us in terms of the long-term preservation of the site, and local businesses and so many more of you out there have provided with us or to us your support. And then finally, really thrilled to report out this fantastic article that just came out. I'm holding it up, I think, not very clearly. Just thrilled to see this wonderful article that came out in the Surrey County Record. So we're working hard to get the word out and to strengthen our fundraising. Again, with our match at 200,000, we are working really hard doing the final push for the last remaining amount of funds so that we can fully acquire the Cranberry Bog. Please drive by the bog. We've cut away areas and marked areas if you want to take a walk along it. I want to remind everybody today at 11, people will be on site to help you experience the bog. It's remarkable. Even if you haven't signed up, please come out. It's just fantastic. And the trails have been groomed to help you navigate the area. And we also have a parking space. And then there'll be another time today at 3:30. You'll see our fantastic signage. We're really stepping up our game. Again, really excited about what the opportunities hold for us. It is now my distinct pleasure to turn over the presentation to Tony Westcott, who's going to talk about plans and ideas for the future.
Thanks, Donna. I'm sorry. I'm reading the thing off the bottom.
No worries, Tony.
Thank you, Karen. I'm Tony Westcott, and I'm one of the board members. I'm the new kid on the block, so to speak. And I have property really close to the bog, so I spend a lot of time out there. I'm able to go out and walk the site as I've become involved and see what's been going on out there over the couple of years I've been out here, and then also considering the future. So it's really close and dear to my heart. So I have actually grown to love this piece of property quite a bit. It's a quarter mile of shoreline on this beautiful lake, and it's a beautiful piece of shoreline, with the exception of the two inlets and outlets, which were man-made to take water in and out of the lake during the agricultural phases of this piece of property. So now we're focusing on the future. As you see on the slide, we've got the area broken down into multiple areas. The green areas are our wetland area that we believe, like Karen mentioned, we believe that was a natural semi-wooded wetland at one point. And then the other areas, the beige and the darker beige, were forested or an upper wetland. We believe the upper wetland area was actually man-made as well, that they either took well water or pumped water from the lake to add some agricultural property to the site. We don't think the water table is close to the surface there, so restoring that to an actual wetland may be very difficult, at least a natural one. The area in the brown is the hilly forested part that everybody sees as you go by. As you notice on there also, there's a bunch of white blocks. Those are buildings on the site. The majority of those eventually will be removed so that we can return it to its most natural state. And the buildings are in disrepair, so they do need to come down. But if you look at this, we've got some areas where on the northwest corner of the property, you can see the terrain lines that are around there. That's the lowest spot, and we believe that's going to be the spot that probably has the most surface water in the wetland once we're done trying to return this to as much a natural state as we possibly can. Next slide, please. Here's our plan. First, we're going to try and gain clear title to the land. Cindy mentioned that, and so did Karen. That's our main objective right now. That's our drive. That's our passion. That's where we're really putting the effort into right now. Once we have this clear title, it opens the doors for all the other possibilities. Once we have this clear title, it gives us the ability to go in there and actually get the conservation easement. It gives us the capability to start moving some dirt around, to start cleaning the site up, to start making it safer for the public to access it. So once we do that, we'll establish the conservation easement. That's our second step in this goal, or in this plan. The conservation easements will make it permanently protected. And that, even if we only accomplish that, we'd be accomplishing something great. Because the current phosphorus loading, the phosphorus runoff, the iron runoff, which we see if you're ever cruising that part of the lake, you'll see that there's a bacteria in these outlets. And this bacteria is produced from the iron, from what we believe is the runoff through the irrigation pipes or the drainage pipes that still remain on the property. So just protecting it and closing off the runoff into the lake would be a huge accomplishment and great for the environment. So just establishing that is awesome. But then we're going to move on and try and create an accessible recreation area with trails. 57 acres is a large piece of land. And as I'll show you later, that just in our downsized, downscaled, minimalist goal is to have trails that run across the existing berms and some of the existing trails that are in the woodland area. And by doing that, we believe it's about 1.7 miles of trails just for walking, getting people off of County Road K, getting people into a safer area, much more beautiful area. And like I said, about a quarter mile of that is shoreline. Just a really awesome opportunity to have a totally natural place to exercise and just get out and enjoy our beautiful shorelines. Once we get beyond that, we're going to start looking into the restoration. And the restoration is going to be a long-term goal. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to be taking what's there and trying to get it back to as close as possible to what we believe might have been there originally. And that's going to take some study, that's going to take some research, that's going to take some planning. But we believe we can restore a really nice natural wetland to the area, which is going to help our groundwater, which is going to help to benefit the actual water in the lake itself. As like I said before, we were able to reduce the amount of outflow from the property into the water, the runoff. Next slide, please. Future directions for the land. As we stated earlier, protect and enhance the lake water quality. Reducing the phosphorus loads and reducing the shoreland sediment loads. I wish I'd had it prepared. I tried to get it done, but I just didn't get it done. I wanted to get a video. I've taken some aerial footage, and you can see the runoff. You can see the sediment loads. You can see where the sediment runs out of the outlets into the lake, and it actually causes a reddish brown sediment that if you look from where it originates to where it runs, that runs along the shoreline on that southwest corner. And we'd like to get that gone. We'd like to get rid of that. It's actually an oxidation process of the iron from the property going into the lake and hitting the oxygen of the lake, and it causes an actual bacteria. It dies off. It's not really dangerous, but it does affect our lake in a man-made way versus a natural way. The phosphorus loads, that's something we'll have to identify once we get into the restoration process. We're not sure how much phosphorus still remains on the site, but just cutting off the outflow will reduce those loads on the lake, which will reduce the phosphorus in our water. 2, the habitat preservation and restoration. As I talked about earlier, we've got the lowland wetlands. That's mostly the northern half, almost half of the property. And that area has berms that dissect it in multiple locations. We're hoping we can knock those down and get that down to close to or actually into the water table, and that way return it to a natural wetland state. That's probably not going to be as difficult as it seems. If you go out there in the early spring, you can start to see in the northwest corner that the plant life gets really dark really early compared to the areas surrounding it. So we do know that the water is close to the surface, that the natural wetland portion of it, not the man-made portion, still exists, and it's not going to be very difficult to get it back to a much more natural state. The upland prairie area, that's the area I talked about that was converted. A lot of dirt was moved to level that area, and then they pumped the water up, and that was actually an area where they held the water at the top of the property and let it run down into the lower wetlands to irrigate the property. We're going to try and return that to a prairie. It may be naturally become a wooded prairie because we're already starting to see tamaracks and other evergreens start to pop up in these areas. So we're not really sure what's going to happen with that area. We're going to probably let nature take its course in that area. And then the forested hilly area, we're going to be having to devise a plan to manage that property, that portion of the property in the most ecologically friendly way we can. And part of that is going to be the removal of some of the buildings, cement foundations that are around the area, cleaning up. But once we get that all cleaned up, we believe that area is going to be a really beautiful asset to the local area. Next slide. Future directions. We want to enhance recreations and public access. That's actually, I think we listed that as our third after we can conserve the property completely and get clear title. We're going to take a lot of the outlying areas where the berms are along the perimeter, as well as some of the interior berms and some trails that are existing through the forested hilltops, and turn that into some walking trails, non-motorized. They'll be for cross-country skiing, potentially for jogging, for walking. So there's a lot of potential there. Some of them are wide enough for motorized vehicles because they use it for equipment, but we're going to try and we'll try and maintain those widths for safety purposes. But we're going to try and use those strictly as non-motorized trails, so people can go out and enjoy this area safely and in a much more natural way. Next slide. Another step that we plan to take, and we've already kind of put this cart before the horse. We've been talking to some of the local schools, LCO Community College, Hayward School District, the School of Environmental Sciences, and we believe there's a ton of interest in using this site for demonstration site, for outdoor classrooms, for projects, primarily with the SES, with the School of Environmental Sciences, which is part of the Hayward School District. And then also the citizens and local property owners. We're going to start with signage, and we're going to try and get some signage out there. Hopefully we can find some people with some familiarity with the former cranberry bogs and put some educational signs out there, because we think it'd be very interesting to let people know what was there and everything we can figure out about the cranberry industry that many of us don't know, because it is kind of an interesting form of agriculture that not many people are familiar with. So we'll put some signage out there. We're also going to put signage out there that shows what was there before, what's there now. And as you look at the sign that's on the page now, we actually have some diagrams similar to that show kind of a bisection of the property that show the various levels, from the prairie down to the wetland, down to the shoreline, and even up into the forested portions. So we'll put some signage out there that'll educate the community on what the site is and what it was and what we believe it can be. And the one that's close to my heart is this demonstration site. I really think I'm newer to the lake. And the reason I got involved in this board was because I have part of the wetland that's connected to the bog in my backyard. And I've lost a lot of trees since I've been here, because the wetland behind my property is actually drying out. And that's because the bog is no longer being supplemented with water from the lake or from the groundwater through wells. So that's what got me interested. And then I started wondering, well, what can I do? Can I plant trees there? What are the natural species that I should be putting in there to replace the trees I'm losing? Because I was losing my tamaracks. So this demonstration site, nobody really could give me answers. And I'm hoping that we can use this site to educate other people who live on the lake, and not just this lake, but the surrounding lakes, on how to restore your shoreline, how to plant the proper trees on your property and plants on your property. And if we could set up a demonstration site where we actually have classes to educate the public about how to live on the lake in a way that's friendly to the lake, that's friendly to the water, that's friendly to the environment, and the natural resources that we're able to enjoy, and without exploiting them and being destructive. And that this is really the part to me that's in the future that I really hold close to my heart. Some of the things that we're going to do with that is setting up some outdoor classrooms, potentially with the School of Environmental Sciences. They've expressed some interest because they want to have some projects, and this is a great site for them to do such. There's also some organizations, nonprofit organizations, that are into natural gardening and shoreline restoration, and they're always looking for opportunities to teach the public. And if we could set this up as an opportunity, a place, a location for them to do that, I don't see any downside. I only see upside to that. So next slide, please. Future directions for the land, as I already talked about a little bit, continue to support the partnerships. I know that a couple of the board members have had conversations with the LCO Tribal College, and Cindy and Cheryl and I have met with the Northwood School of Environmental Sciences, which is part of the Hayward School District. And we do believe there's a lot of support from the community out there in this project, and that we'll be able to keep those coalitions tight. I'm actually presenting at the town of Bass Lake on Monday night at their meeting. And I know Cindy has had some great communication with Sawyer County over the last couple of years. And then DNR, Fish and Wildlife, and Landmark Conservancy, we have really, they seem to be really, really supportive. We have had nothing but positive, especially from the DNR and the Forest, or USFWS. They really seem to support this project and this concept. That's quite a blessing, because having them behind us makes all the difference in the world, clears a lot of red tape, and they really have at different points held our hand through this process and given us advice and guided us. So we're really fortunate to have them supporting us and behind us. And then D, the businesses. This is something that's probably going to take place a lot more going forward as we get into development, because we're going to need people to contribute. We're going to need people to contribute time, equipment, etc. And that's the business part of it is really a future cooperation, a cooperative effort that we're going to be seeking. Next slide. These are some pictures I believe that Karen gathered up. If you look at the one on the bottom right, the green tree, if you look in the top of that tree, there's actually an eagle's nest there. And if you go out and do a bog tour, you'll be able to see that. We get you to within about 50 feet of the actual tree, and you can see up from the bottom. It's pretty large. It's probably, if I had to guess, it's probably about 10 feet across, maybe 8 to 10 feet across. And it takes up the entire top of that tree there. It's on the northern edge of our forested area overlooking the bog. I've been out here all week, and I was on the bog for about 6 hours yesterday, and the caterpillars and I haven't seen a lot of the caterpillars, but I have seen a ton of monarch butterflies out there. And then I live adjacent to it, fairly close to the bog, and I've seen them all over my yard. So a new ecosystem is evolving out there already on its own, which is awesome, just from the lack of agriculture. But now, if we can continue that process and return it to what it was, I mean, I can only guess what our opportunities are. So I'll read my note here. In the years since the discontinuation of agricultural activities, the bog has seen a return of wildlife and plant life. The monarch caterpillars, monarch butterflies, waterfowl, and eagles are common sightings today. A large active eagle's nest sits atop a tree on the edge of the upper woodland area. I'm probably about 100 yards from the bog on the shoreline, and the eagles are probably a weekly occurrence out here. So this is an awesome sight. The things that are out there already, and I can't even imagine what we can do as we clean it up and try and return it to as natural state as possible. Next slide, please. This was awesome. Preliminary design. We were able to, and I jumped in at the end of this. This is something that a group of people got together with a student on his capstone project from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and he now just, we're proud to announce that he just recently got hired by a company in the Twin Cities, and he is a landscape architect student, and he now has a great job at a great company in Twin Cities doing landscape architecture. And that was Billy Atkinson, and he helped us through a steering committee that had representatives from the community, not just from our foundation board. We had Bob Hammond, we had multiple people from around the lake that were involved in this process. What Billy did for us was he showed us all the potential that this site could be. And he went above and beyond probably what we would ever, I shouldn't even say probably, but above and beyond what we would ever do to this site, because he needed to put buildings and things of that nature into his project. But he established a trail system. He evaluated the property. He did landscape, terrain mapping. He really did a lot that showed us what this site could be. And he did an outstanding job. And he spent a year analyzing the land and developing plans. And he consulted with the steering committee, as I mentioned. And the product that he produced for us was phenomenal. And we still use him as an asset. We go to him for images and things of that nature still, because he he really is a talented young man that showed us, and I think really sparked some enthusiasm in the group, showing us what we can do with this site. So next slide, please. This is Billy's work. This is these maps, all these maps and stuff are things that Billy Atkinson did for us. This one here is what we currently have. This is the existing conditions. And I think we showed this on the earlier map, but if you look up in the two inlets, you got the one on the northwest corner of the property where it's kind of a white area adjacent to the landing. Then you have the one on the northeast corner. Those are the two portions that open up to the lake into the ditch and irrigation system. And then you've got the main road that runs up to the buildings on the property. This is what it looks like today. Next one, please. And this is what we're proposing. This is another one of Billy's pieces of work. And he put on the trails. If you look at the trails, we've got a perimeter trail that runs around the entire area. My favorite part is the one that runs from inlet to inlet, basically. That's shoreline the entire way. For those of you who are able to get out there today, it's really an awesome site. It's beautiful. You're about 10 to 12 feet above the water, walking along the shoreline. And it's a nice wide open area with trees and forested. It's really beautiful. And then the other trails will run through the forested area, run around the prairie area on the southwest corner as well. This is our preliminary design for our initial trail system that we'll start with to get people out on the property. And it may be going simultaneously with the development of the wetlands and trying to possibly scrape and bring some water to the surface. And there'll be a ton of projects going on over the next few years, but if we can get people out there enjoying nature and enjoying the property, that's really what it's all about. This is a community-driven project. We want community involvement. The future is really going to be dependent on what the community wants and what the community needs, and the community involvement, the level of community involvement. So having people out there as early as possible in this process is going to be really, really important. If you look at this as well, we've kind of established an area we may use for parking. That's our plan for now, because it's the most level area where we wouldn't have to do any harm to the environment. We wouldn't have to remove any trees. It's already relatively level, and it looks like they probably placed some aggregate out there in the past. So it's already a good spot to put cars, and that's the P there right in the middle. And then we have a maintenance building, a large metal building that's in the middle of the property that we may want to keep as well, so that we can keep our equipment, or if any of the schools need to store stuff. So we'll have a storage and maintenance building in the middle. But as you see, we've removed all the other white blocks. We're hoping to get all those other buildings out of there. Next slide, please. And this is the existing conditions from an actual image. And it shows, again, the exact same stuff. If you look at the area in orange, that's the upper bog. That's about 10 to 12 feet higher than the rest of the bog. And that was made by cutting into the hill. If you look at if you ever get a chance at some point, there's that 1938 picture that was shown by Karen, shows that about half of that area was hilly, and they cut that and flattened it and then moved the dirt to that corner. You can kind of see an area, a gray area in the bottom of the picture where it's just like a gray mound with a road leading to it. That area there is just a big pile of dirt. And we believe it was probably from cutting into the hill, and then they placed it there, and then they spread it around the property when they needed to build areas up. But there's a big pile of dirt there that used to be part of this mountainous, not mountainous, but hilly terrain. And we'd like to see some of that restored and get rid of that big ugly mound. And we'd end up with a really beautiful area there that's somewhat hilly. We'll try and reforest it, and then probably have to put prairie grasses and natural plantings into that area. Next slide, please. And then again, an image versus a drawing. And this shows the trail system with an underlying existing image showing where the trails will kind of run around the property. And again, 1.71 miles of trails. We think there's a couple other areas we can put trails through. We don't want to have too many berms going through the actual wetland area, so probably just that one crossing at this point. And there's probably one or two more trails that are already cut, so we would just have to keep them groomed, that go through the wooded area. And the board of directors. As you saw earlier, this is our board of directors. Great group of people. Like I said, I'm the new kid on the block. I am blown away by the professionalism and hard work of the people that I was fortunate to sign on with. if you see any of these people, please thank them. They've done some great work. This is a great group of people that have put in a lot of time and effort to try and make this lake a better place to live. And this project has grown on me really quickly, and I'm really proud to be a part of this team. So next slide. All right, here's how to donate. You know, you're going to come to this eventually. We need money. We're down to about 200,000, as we've said, if we can get the full matching grant. We believe that's doable. We have a large number of people who haven't donated yet, but we believe will. And we have people who've donated who may be willing to give more. So we really would like to see people step up, and especially while we have this matching grant, as every dollar you give is $2, and that adds up really fast. So we'd really appreciate it if you could donate. These are the ways to do it: through the mail. There's a Grindstone Lake Foundation, P.O. Box 292, Hayward, Minnesota, Wisconsin, 54843. Or you can get our new website, savethebog.org. You should probably go there anyways. Most of these images and many of these slides are on there. So savethebog.org. If you go there, you can find a lot of information. Mike Warden is our treasurer. And if you'd like to contact him about donating something other than just cash or making a pledge, he can help you with the stocks and securities portions and anything else. He'll have any questions you need answered. Mike's your guy. And then Cindy Parker, our GLF president, and there's her email if you need to contact her and get some more information. I think that's it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Tony, thank you. That was fantastic. Just received a question, a really good question, asking whether or not there might in the future be access to the bog by boat, for example, putting out a pier or a dock. We are considering that possibility. There's been no decision either way. And I think that's something that we'll want to hear from the community about as to whether something like that would be of value. So stay tuned, and please let us know in the future what it is you'd like to see on this amazing site. All right, everybody, I'm going to turn it back over to Donna. Thank you again for your time.
Well, as someone used to tell me, under promise and overproduce. It is before 10:30, so we're finishing ahead of time. I'm so glad to hear that. And a couple of minor things. One, this recording and the presentations will be on grindstonelake.org and available if you have friends or family or neighbors that missed this but would like to see some of it. The presentations and the recording will be there. Last but not least, you still have an opportunity at 11 or 3:30 to come out to the bog. Just drive over there, and one of us will be there to show you around. And of course, we had to do this via Zoom, but you have a chance to meet and greet your neighbors. Again, even if you haven't signed up, stop over at the Boulevard from 4 to 6 today and say hi and take a look at the article that was in the Grindstone, was in the Sawyer County paper. I'm adopting that too. So otherwise, I don't believe there are any further questions. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. Thank you for helping, volunteering, caring about this terrific lake. Have a good day. Bye.